execution. I think that's about it, guys. And that was about it until I started to continue the sketchbook out since that time. And that was about a year ago, or like half a year ago. And now we've like, progressed since that point. And this is the first page since then. I was working on this comic last book because like what I said in the video, I really wanted to experiment more with like the comic booky aesthetic because I love illustrations and like the point of the sketchbook was like, to understand myself more and allow myself to create the things that I actually love and enjoy. And one of those things is like comic books, manga. Like a lot of my style is based off of that. So I made this like short story about this man that ends up in the Garden of Eden via self deletion, and he has to like fight his way out of like this purgatory almost. And he like this is part of the story where he like finds like a mythical sword or something like that, and he like fights his way out of it. I really love this page. I use like watercolor and brush pens, essentially like this one, to like get the darks in with like around the tree and whatnot. Because I took a vacation back to Florida to see my family, and during that trip, not this sketchbook, but during that trip, I take my like my on the go sketchbook, and I was doing like sketches of like the nature there and the trees and just like really using my watercolor set while I was out there, and it made me fall in love with watercolors because it's such a fun like thing to use because it's almost unpredictable and you have to like you it's a very like patient it's very you have to be very patient with watercolors, which is kind of like in this very fast-paced internet world, it's hard to be very patient with it. But it took a lot of patience to like wait for this to dry, then add more layers to it, and like slowly fall in love with it. But on the next page, I was like, drawing more characters that I thought were cool, very like cooler designs. Honestly, this is very like Sakamoto Days inspired because I think I was reading it around this time, and I wanted to make like a an assassin esque comic book. But then like I said, the watercolor takes patience, dude. And I was waiting, and I'm like, dude, I want to keep drawing. I can't wait for this shit to dry, bro. So while this shit was drying, I kind of moved on to the next page, and then I just kept progressing from there. And from this page is basically like, really like, cause when I got this pen, I really wanted to like get on my Kim Jong Gi shit. You know what I'm saying? So I really was like, practicing just using the brush pen because it's so delicate and soft, man. You have to know how to like press just gently enough to get it going, honestly. Versus a fountain pen where you can kind of go crazy and like you have a lot more control over your line quality and line thickness. But with that, it's different. Like I was really doing a lot of Batmans and like kept Batman kicking the shit out of this guy, making him lick his boots, bro, and then ore farming right after it. um then I was like just drawing random characters. I guess it's like a Ghost Rider esque dude, some Megatron ass nigga, and then like Wolverine. I really like this Wolverine because it feels very like DC. I mean Marvel, not DC. Don't whoop me in the comics, dude. I meant Marvel. Very Marvel looking, classic comic book looking. And then when I drew this, it was like, you know what? I'm kind of cool with this like fountain pen shit. So I started to do these like illustrations based off of like faces I was finding on Pinterest, and I have a video on how I like constructed these faces. But it took a while of me like doing these until I got very comfortable with it and like I understood like the painterly style that comes along with using a fountain brush. Videos on my channel where I did all these, honestly, if you want to follow along, like learn how to do this. This is a continuation of the comic that I was working on here, honestly. So you can honestly just flip it like this, where where titular hero gets the sword and he has to like fight the serpent that's within the Garden of Eden. But the garden also like is symbolic of like the humans like our human bestial nature towards like the spirit and whatnot, and having to like conquer the monster that's within all of us, honestly. And maybe it's not even a monster, it's just misunderstood how I don't know, it's how I perceive it. And like this was like as I'm saying, this is like the battle that's like symbolic of like a more internal battle and struggle. And this is like what's happening on the external, honestly, where like his heart is like going through this battle, but then he's also like not doing so well, honestly. And this is very symbolic of what's happening in life for me right now, where life is kind of a struggle. For a lot of us, life is a struggle, honestly. And like the character is very symbolic of myself and like the things that I feel like I'm going through. And it's crazy how you'll create something and then in hindsight you'll truly understand how like real it was to you, honestly, and like finding the true meaning of it in like hindsight. And yeah, this was like because I'm like, bro, if I was creating a manga or a comic book, I would want to use like a lot of splash page. So this is like, the internal struggle of like him, and then like this is the battle that's happening within like the serpent and whatnot. You see the character like becoming almost one with the snake, because that's kind of what I wanted it to be, where it's like instead of it being like a battle versus good and evil, it's like making yin and yang, bringing those two energies together to become something beautiful, which is like reality. Like everything is contrast, everything is like coming together in that way. And I was like really inspired me to like make other characters that are in the garden too. So I started to draw like animals and whatnot and practicing with that, because I'm like, I've never drawn animals like this. I feel like this is genuinely like the first time in my life I've drawn like a horse, a deer thing, a rabbit, and like all these animals. Like this was genuinely the first time I've drawn any of these animals. Samurai Jack, got some fucking Johnny Bravo, and all this is like brush pen still, because I still wanted to stay within that energy, because it's like brush pens are really easy to like sketch with, and create concepts with very fast. Also, I was using watercolor to color these in. So I think what I was doing was I would basically do this, where I would lay down the watercolors and then I would draw the lines around it, honestly, almost like this. It's kind of like a really quick example, because I saw a lot of creators doing that on my Instagram, and I'm like, this is a very cool way of like creating and whatnot. More brush pen stuff, because I was in love with the brush pen, very obsessed for like a few months. Drew this Gundam figure that's somewhere on my desk. I won't grab it because they are super fragile, and this is a Gundam new Gundam. Hopefully I'm saying that right, because I also have this figure, and I was like, I might as well draw these, because using a brush pen too, because it's like, and I was practicing with an engine, because there's like this one dude on Instagram that's fucking, he's so crazy at drawing like mechanical stuff with brush pens, that it really inspired me to be like, these two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. Because when I think of like machinery or very like technical drawing, I don't think of like brush pens, because it's so painterly, like you wouldn't expect it. But this dude was using like fountain pen, like brush pens, and I'm like, bro, I didn't know that was possible, dude. Like, teach me the way. So I was like, going on his channel and like watching that and learning how. I basically going on his Instagram and like watching and like seeing him do it and like being amazed by it. I think this was around the time where Blade came out in like Marvel Rivals, and I was like, this nigga cool as hell, bro. They like snapped on his design, so I'm like, yo, I kind of want to draw homie. And I think I right here, I think I tried to do a splash page of Blade, and then I got super pissed off, dude. And whenever I get pissed off in my sketchbook, and I get very frustrated, because I was using the brush pen a lot. So at this point, I was like, I think I'm nice at it, but the niceness wasn't coming out. And then I got very frustrated. And when I get frustrated, I just get very experimental. So these next few pages are going to be very experimental on like, what I was trying to create at the time. And yeah, this was like one of them, where I was like being very abstract with what I was creating, because I just wanted to get out of the headspace of like doing basically this for months, honestly, months on end, with like using the same materials and whatnot. I wanted to experiment with paints and like markers and whatnot. So I really just like put this down, just to like experiment and allow myself to be more abstract and not be very calculated in what I was creating, because that, I feel like that breaks the mental mold in your head and then allows you to like create even more via this. This is terrifying, dude. This page still scares me to this day, because I have like a visceral fear of spiders, and like I decided one day to like illustrate what spiders look like in my head, which is like the all those beady eyes, the fucking limbs that are like everywhere, and like this very like yeah, it's like it's a very like abstract version of what I think of like a spider is, and the fear of like arachnids in general. I kind of want to flip the page now. I'm sorry, I gotta leave, dude. Shit freaks me out to this day. This page was really fun to do, and like what I have to do in my sketchbooks now is because this keeps happening where the pages stick together, is I got some medium, so or like some I forgot what you call that shit, where you just kind of I doesn't even say it on here, but basically just to coat this so the pages don't stick together. I'm gonna make sure I do that in my next sketchbook. But basically, what I would do is I would lay down paint, and then I would use the back part of the brush and just do this. And I plan on using this. This is one of those where when I have the opportunity, I'm going to take this and make it a huge piece because I really love the way this looks, and I just have to figure out a way to like bring it into like a bigger art piece. And that's what I mean by like when you start to deconstruct and like let yourself experiment, you start to find things as well. Like in my last sketchbook I showed you guys last year, the same thing happened where there was like, you know, these experiments that I did became like other art pieces. Like this one became, I'm not gonna grab it, but you get the idea. You get the idea. And just let yourself experiment. This was a page where I was like kind of really going through things in life at this time, and and I still am, but like things are figuring out themselves out slowly. But this was a page where I kind of like laid down some watercolor and like I just wrote down a bunch of positive affirmations that are kind of unreadable, but it wasn't about the readability. It was more about the energy that I was trying to put out with um this experiment. And that's basically what I was trying to capture with a lot of these is like capturing the energy of something without it being anything in specifically, basically abstract art, honestly. Same thing with this one. This is probably the least favorite page on this, because I feel like what happened with this is like I took all the experiments and I tried to do something very calculated and it just didn't work. And this is probably my least favorite page in the sketchbook, genuinely. And then this one, I went back to my Blade illustrations. For some reason, I just can't draw this dude right. I don't know why. Like this feels like I'm struggling with Blade, honestly. So I was like, you know what? Who's another like cool like chocolate character? Afro Samurai, bro. So I drew the hell out of. I'm really proud of this one. I love playing with perspectives in my art and like really pushing like um perspectives. Shout out to Kim Jong Gi because he does that a lot in his art as well, like pushing perspectives, and I really enjoy doing that because it's like a fun challenge when you're creating art. And this kind of inspired like my most recent sketchbook because I started doing a lot of fan art. I'm gonna show off this sketchbook because I completed this one, but I haven't bought a new sketchbook because I kind of want something more heavy duty. But in this one, I've been doing a lot of like fan, just my favorite characters from certain anime and like really, experimenting to like really push them because I feel like I have a decent skill at like capturing characters. Like these are pretty fucked up because I've been like taking this sketchbook all over the place, but I feel like I'm pretty good at like almost making it like sticker quality characters. So I wanted to push that and experiment with that more. But yeah, this kind of started all of that, all those ideas. This page I was like getting into Mega Man and shit like that, drawing them like pretty cool and whatnot because I wanted to do another like fan thing. And I started this like another like perspective Mega Man drawing that I will never finish at this point because I'm like I got bored again, or like I think life was happening and then I just like left this alone and then other things happened. I got like more inspiration to do other things. Oh yeah, this is really cool. This is probably one of my favorite things in this sketchbook, honestly. Like I really got into Common Rider and like rekindling that love for like Power Rangers, Common Rider, Super Sentai, I think it's called. And just made this really short like comic book about this character. I've been drawing this character a lot. Somewhere back here, I don't. Oh yeah, yeah. Basically, like here, honestly, it's like these were like the rough drafts of this exact character. Honestly, and this was like the first version of that comic book. And like I wanted to do better and like make it more clean this time and like practice, learn from the mistakes from that first one and like take it into this one. It's like the readability is better this time and like the choreography of the battle is more, drawn out and makes a lot more sense within this one. And then like there's another character I found in my one of my older sketchbooks, like way back in the past, dude. And it was like this army guy. It was like a video game concept, and I was like, let me flesh that out, honestly. So I made like, started to flesh out the characters, like the pilots. This helicopter pilot's like an ace pilot, but he's kind of like, a dickhead and also like a thought on the fucking whatever you call it, the what do you call that shit, bear? The base and whatnot, and like they're best friends, and he's got this mask that makes him look very scary and very eerie, but at the same time, he's like this very like laid back, character, and this is like the pilot dude that's like, very like sociable, and he's not very sociable at all. It's kind of like a very contrast buddy buddy comic book kind of thing. And I was like, concepting like what would it be like, or the storyline. I was gonna make a short story about him like entering a base to like finish like a mission basically, and it was gonna be very like um Metal Gear Solid inspired, because I love Metal Gear Solid, especially Metal Gear Solid 5, I think. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5 is like one of my top 3 favorite games of all time, or top 5, not top 3. Top 5 favorite games of all time, and I kind of wanted to make that like he's going to like they're flying towards the base honestly, and he's like kind of like get ready to jump. He's like, "Get ready to jump. We're going to go left." And then like they fly closer to the base. He's kind of giving a briefing on what to do. He's like preparing himself to jump. They're kind of heading towards like the base that kind of doodled out right here. And basically they fly super close. He does this like really crazy ass maneuver where he's like completely sideways towards a building. Bro jumps out and he like crashes through the window. I want to redraw this and give him more aura, honestly. And then he immediately like he senses like he's about to be attacked, and then he reaches for his like little knife or whatnot, and like blocks the attack. And then this dude was gonna be there, kind of looking like something out of I forgot the game, dude. The dude with the this is such an prototype. Somebody out of prototype where he's got like bio engineered ass limbs that are like weirdly, whatever the fuck. And yeah, like a battle ensues, honestly. But then I kind of like dropped it after that because I started to get other ideas and I wanted to touch my brush pen again. So I started to do that and started to rough out things. And like around this time, this is where life started to get really rough for your boy. I'm not gonna lie, like around this time, life started to get really rough for your boy, and I started to work on paintings. Honestly, damn, I just and around this time I got into my first art show in the city. Honestly, since I moved to the city, and it really taught me a lot on like painting and being like very intentional about your composition, your colors, and all those things like that. And I was like, as I was working on a piece that I can't show you right now because it's in a show right now as we speak. But while I was painting this, I was working on this. I can't really show you the whole thing. Maybe I'll do like another angle or something like that. And what I'll do is I'll basically because I don't like wasting paint, and like as I'm painting something, I'll have a lot of leftover paint when I'm done, so I'll just paint things like this just to not waste any paint or whatnot. I'll just find pictures on Pinterest and just paint them out, so don't waste any paint. Same thing with this, where I was like had lot of leftover blue and green. I just wanted to paint this really quick, just so I don't waste any paint, and I kind of like kill two birds with one stone. You know what I mean? And then this page, probably one of my favorite pages in the sketchbook because it really brought me back to what I love about art, which is like using so many colors at the same time. Very like trippy aesthetics, like very psychedelic. I love psychedelia and like creating in that like energy. So probably one of my favorite pages in here. And I want to create more of this stuff in the future. This is a naked lady. It didn't look like this before, and I kept adding to it because it was one of those pages where I kept adding more to it, and I kind of regret it because it looked really good at one point, and then I just kept adding to it. But it is what it is. It's something, I guess. Next page. I think around this time I was learning about like the allegory of the cave, and honestly, and like learning about like being in a society where there's some level of propaganda that we're all dealing with in society and programming, and being able to like understand that and try to escape that. And like one of the main things I learned during like watching that lecture was like turning your soul around. I guess the concept of turning your soul around is like being able to like kind of third person yourself a little bit and like look behind you and be like, oh shit, like none of this really matters. You know what I'm saying? Like we're really like this life is really a house of cards, and your whole tower can fall over tomorrow, honestly, and you'll have to rebuild it or start all over again, and that's completely fine. But like don't that's kind of what I was trying to invoke by like making it be a hand that's holding this is like you don't want to hold on too tightly when it comes to life in general because you know that it can like literally escape your grasp at any moment, and you want to be prepared for that and not hold on too tightly because you can you want your hands ready to rebuild and like plan for the future. I was playing Red Dead Redemption when I drew this weird, very eclectic sketch. And what's really cool in the game is that Arthur Morgan, he'll like sketch in his sketchbook. Every time you find something interesting, he'll sketch in your sketchbook. And I was like going through the sketchbook, and I realized that like it was telling his own story because it would remind me of all the it reminded me of all the memories that I had while on my adventure. And I was like, that's almost what I'm doing in real life, honestly, with sketchbooks in general. And like what I hope to inspire other people to do is that adventure in their sketchbooks as well. Um, this basically was the initial idea that was for this painting right here, the one I just showed you guys. I'm still working on this, still a work in progress. I'm gonna have to like add another clip of it so I can really show you guys what it looks like. But yeah, it's very inspired by this, and I was trying to like construct that while I was like painting it at the same time to get the idea down. This was another page of me like figuring out the concepts and like using all the excess paint to like paint that out. So don't waste paint. Um, this page is kind of special to me, honestly. I'm probably gonna make this the thumbnail of the video, cause I went back to as I was painting, I went back and I practiced like the things I was practicing before in my sketchbook in regards of like figuring out how to get faces to look correct, or like beauty, get basically get the style down of like using pen brush, these right here, which is like basically acrylic pens that you can like are you can basically paint with instead of like bringing like a whole paint set with you. You kind of like paint with those, and I was using those to like practice rendering faces and whatnot. And I feel like when I rendered these out, I was very proud of how far I've come with like my facial renders and whatnot. And then I was painting this out, and I feel like this page is a real thesis, or like it went back to the whole thesis of my whole like reasoning for starting this sketchbook in general, which was like trying to illustrate myself honestly and like truly understand who I am as a person. It's funny that as I was like reaching the tail end of this journey, my life kind of like got flipped upside down, honestly. And it's kind of hilarious because it's like now I have to figure out life now, but I also have a deeper understanding of who I am and where I want to be in life for the future. But yeah, this is like a page of like me truly understanding who I am and like being better at illustrating myself in general. Because that was like, you know, if you watch the first video, you'll see like the progress of me drawing myself and like struggling to not only like depict myself but understand who I am as a person in general, dude. So when it got to this page right here, even though it's very experimental and very like loose, it feels like the closest version of myself that I've been able to achieve so far through like this this year of drawing and painting and whatnot. Flip this page. Around this era, um I was drawing I really got into cybernetics again, and like um basically the world of Armored Core. And there's this mech right here that I really love. I can't remember the name right now. I think it's like Fragile or something like that. I love the design of it because it's like very sleek, very slender, but it's very fast and dangerous, but it's super flimsy. Like you can one shot this thing almost, dude. But it's like that's if you can one shot it because it's so fast and like it's out there. And I really wanted to like this is what I mean by like drawing mechanical things with like something with a fine point is like a lot easier to get down. You can like really like um render out easier, but with a brush pen it's like it becomes its own like animal and beast and whatnot. There's another like painting I did, which I kind of like really much because it's really simple and you can get the like you know what you're looking at. It's like someone like squatting down in front of like maybe a building or a street or something like that, but it's very simple and I really enjoy this page. But like as as my life was like you know becoming what it is now, and like has become its own transition into like something more beautiful. But when you're in between transitions, it can be very scary and very terrifying. But I remember painting this and being like, I don't know what to do next with my life. Almost like this character where it's like kind of sitting down and like pondering on like where to go. Where should I get up? Should I sit down longer? It's one of those things in life. And this is the last page in the sketchbook. What a quick journey we went through, honestly. And this was another like self portrait, you know, of myself, and I felt like very apt to end the sketchbook with a self portrait again. Starting from um this point, starting from this point and then ending here felt very apt and like towards the growth of my personal journey as a human being in general. And it's crazy because like these are two completely different humans, bro. Like the amount of growth and experience and like turmoil that I faced this year, like experiencing my first art shows, really venturing out into the art world, and like you know becoming closer to becoming an artist. But that also came at a very grave sacrifice that I'm like experiencing now, that is also like part of the transitionary process of like the direction I'm trying to go in with like my personal desires with reality. And it's like I'm very happy with this, the way it's ended, because it's more me than I've I've understood myself for the past few years, honestly. And I really love these like colors, honestly. I love this picture too. I genuinely, I'm very happy with how this sketchbook ended, honestly. It's been an insane journey. Like the first half of this sketchbook, I'm like a very naive child, honestly, not very mature. Like, but as like it progresses and I like understand myself more and more, I mature and I like experience reality to a degree to which I've like truly entangled myself within reality, because I'm a person that like keeps reality. I treat reality like it's got COVID, bro, and I keep it like 6 feet away from me. I'm very disassociative with reality. So doing this experiment really grounded myself and forced me to face like the truths of this world, and like I'm very grateful for this sketchbook, and like having this as something that I can look back to as like my life progresses and like I push forward. I'm very glad to have this with me for those future endeavors, and I'm glad you are here to like listen to me yap about this shit. I'm so happy that that this is you're here for this, and I hope this sketchbook inspired you to like maybe take your sketchbooks a level deeper than you've experienced. I have no idea what my next year's sketchbook is going to be. I also have like so many sketchbooks that I have that like this is my I have this sketchbook which is like my pocket sketchbook. Like I literally just put this in my pocket and go. And this is like my medium sketchbook that I've been like using as like a in between before I get like my next sketchbook, honestly. So but yeah, follow your bliss, make some cool stuff.